Pints in a Corner is a music history podcast about the Channel Club in Boston, Mass. Dinky Dawson and Tony Raine are your hosts. They interview channel performers and workers, bringing out stories and memories of the great music and events that came through this iconic South Boston venue. Welcome to Two Pints in a Corner with Tony Raine and Dinky Dawson. Tony's not with us right now. He's recovering just like the gentleman that we're going to talk to, Chris Doherty, with the same problem. But right now, we've got Sean McNally taking Tony's place. And boy, he is still at it and giving us a great session here with wonderful musicians that we will never get to talk to normally. So here we go. This is Welcome to Two Pints in a Corner with Chris Doherty from Gangrene and Jerry's Kids. Welcome. How are you? Sean, are you there now?
I'm here, sir. Yes.
Oh, then we're all on here. Chris, you're on. You guys have been keeping contact with each other for quite a few years now, since the channel days, I know. And Chris has been, Sean's been looking at Chris and what have you. And how you feeling, Chris, these days? Are you feeling good?
Yeah, I'm feeling good.
This is.
I say I get better slowly but surely. Maybe a little more slowly but surely.
Yeah, that then you've learned all these things, especially with the stroke thing. It's Tony's doing the same, slow. Unfortunately, it's like you, he can't play his guitar again, but he's trying to get the words out, and you already accomplished that, and I'm hearing you singing again, which is wonderful. You turned me on big time when you did that record release party. I couldn't believe how a man could go up there with a band that was out of control, but under control with you. It was.
Thank you, Dick.
Yeah, so here we go. Let's get Sean to ask you asking you some questions here on Two Pints in the Corner.
Excellent. Thanks, Dinky. And Chris, good to talk to you, buddy. I'm looking forward to this.
Dinky, it was great to hear your voice.
All right, Val. So we got a lot of stories with the channel, of course. That's kind of the main focus of this is. But I just want to let's go back a little bit before that, the genesis of Gangrene got started. I know you were a young kid. You were a high school kid, I think, when you first started, maybe before high school. But maybe give us a bit of a background. Where you grew up, when you first got into the music, your first interest, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
I grew up in a suburb of Boston called Braintree.
Yeah.
And somehow punk rock made its way into our high school. We had a couple of tables in lunch every day. It was just punks. It was Gangrene, Jerry's Kids, our skater buddies, our other fucked up friends. And I think what made a difference with Gangrene, I've said this before, is that we knew how to play our instruments, and then we started a band. We didn't start a band to learn how to play our instruments.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty different than a lot of bands back then. You're right.
Yeah, you're right. It's different.
What got you into music in the first place? Did you have like a record collection? Your family? Did people how did music kind of come into your life? Was it just because you came to these kids at high school and you're all kind of discovering this new thing called punk rock and skate rock and all that stuff, or did you have some kind of a musical background before that?
Oh yeah, I mean I played violin, clarinet, and piano in school, and became a very and had hundreds of records, and I would just, as soon as I could learn how to use the turntable, I had the headphones on constantly.
Awesome.
That's really great. You were getting.
You were 15 years old when you started Gangrene, is that right?
14.
14. That's amazing. So tell us about the first incarnation. I think it was back in 1980, right? Your first kind of incarnation of Gangrene was a 3-piece, I think, right?
Yep. And we recorded Boston, LA when we were 15, I think.
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah, not to jump ahead to that yet, but the Boston, not LA was a very, very historic record that came out in 82. Which Gangrene found themselves being a big part of it. 7 songs on there. But even to get to that point, before you got to the point of being invited to be on that record, so you decided to have a band formed in 80. Who are the members in the band at that time? And did you guys play any local shows or play at the school, anything like that?
Yeah, it was Mike Dean and Bill Manley. We played, the media workshop.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
And what was the one at South Station? Gallery
Gallery East.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you were there right at the very beginning then, very early part of the scene.
Yeah.
How did you discover that? Was it the kids at school kind of a little bit older than you? They were already talking about these shows or going into Boston, or how did it come to your world?
Yeah, I mean, the channel used to do small ages shows. We go in and just see live music, like Sunday afternoon matinees.
What were the first couple of shows you were going to as a fan? Do you remember the first shows kind of time you went to the channel back in the day?
Yeah, I saw the Neighborhoods, Mission of Burma, and La Peste, Bradford Butler.
It's awesome bands.
Yeah, definitely.
All three outstanding bands.
Yep. So the first.
So does that kind of get you on that path of the the underground punk, hardcore, speed, fast stuff at that point? Was it just kind of you kind of found your head in that way already, or just what you like to listen to yourself, or like to see yourself?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if that got us on the trail, but it made us think that it was possible to play live and get out of the basement.
Yeah.
Great.
The first show that I've seen on here, what Sean pointed out to me, was 2/17/85. Articles of Faith, Gangrene, Corrosion of Conformity, at 2 p.m. show in the afternoon. There it was one of the first ones that they were doing, started to do, and that to me was interesting. Because these are all bands that are all coming up at the time, and you guys just were a little step above them. You could tell how because of the performance and what have you. So you take it from there, Sean, about the next one after that when that Chris is now remembering.
Yeah, no, it's funny. We're going through the database, and just so you know, Chris, is an online database that Dinky put together at bostonsbestliverock.com, which has every year, every date from when the channel opened in 1980 to the end of the 90s, where you could find every band that played there and whatnot. So that's why it was funny. We were talking last night about it, and you don't remember that show though, the Articles of Faith show with COC. You don't remember that show? You said, right?
No, I remember seeing COC at the YMCA on.
Huntington?
On Huntington Ave.
Oh, wow. In Northeastern. Wow. So then the first show that you think it was later on that year. It was December of 85 with the Circle Jerks at the channel. So that's a massive first show for you guys to play this. You obviously had a kind of a buzz going at that point for sure, because at this point you had a few years under you.
Yeah.
Tell us about how the Circle Jerks, you became friends with Keith over the years, I know that, but how did Gangrene find themselves on that Circle Jerk show that early, so to speak, in your career?
I don't know. Someone put us on. I don't think Warren Scott was in charge back then, but somebody put us on the bill. And then we became good friends with them and did lots of... we intersected a lot on tour. And the first time we went to Europe, both bands was Gangrene and the Circle Jerks.
Oh, wow.
Co-headline tour, and that was a lot of fun.
Wow. And it's kind of crazy, but they're actually, as you know, they're still doing their thing. They just played 2 shows in Boston this past week, and still amazing live band. Absolutely incredible.
Incredible, yeah. I was there both nights. What night did you go?
I was there Friday night. I went to the second show.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
They're both nights. They were just incredible. I saw them a few years ago at the House of Blues, first time in a long time. You were there that night, too. They were just incredible. I'm just like they hadn't missed a beat in so many years. Incredible.
That's amazing.
He's 70 years old now. Wild,
I know Keith is 70, and Greg and Xander are early to mid 60s. And I think Joey, the new drummer, is probably in his 50s.
Yeah, he's a machine. So to get to that Circle Jerk, so the first channel show, you obviously there were some big things going before that. So you formed in 1980, the first version essentially with Bill and Mike, and then 83 was kind of like you went to. I know you were at this time. You had the band going, but you also played with Jerry's Kids for a while there. Maybe tell us how that kind of intersected. How'd you end up in Jerry's Kids?
Well, we're all from the same town, like walking distance from each other, and we would walk over to Brian Betchka's house.
Yep.
To watch Jerry's Kids practice, and they come over and watch us practice. But Dave Aronson, the original rhythm guitar player, they had some shows booked, and he couldn't play them.
Okay.
They asked me to learn the songs. We had some fun. I know we played the channel with the Misfits and Myers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Oh, so you had played the channel before your Gangrene show. Obviously, that makes sense for sure. Yeah, 83, Misfits, Circle Jerk. Not Circle. I'm sorry. Minor Threat. Wow, talk about cutting your teeth on a major show.
I'd say.
And then, so you still had Gangrene going. You filled it for Dave, but you also still had Gangrene going simultaneously, right? At the same time, but you had different members at that point.
No, when I was at Jerry's Kids, Gangrene with the original 3-piece.
Okay, so it's okay. Gotcha.
Did shows here and there. And
then the This Is Boston, Not L.A. was 82. So that was just probably joining Jerry's Kids. So you guys must have been playing out about, you mentioned like going to see stuff at Media Workshop in the Gallery East, but what kind of places were you playing as Gangrene in the first couple of years there that someone figured out who you were and get you on the Boston, Not LA compilation?
We did a couple of really good shows at a club called Streets, which is no longer there.
Yep, Streets, sure. Okay. So was Streets your first venue in Boston you played as a Gangrene?
Oh, maybe the first real venue we played.
Gotcha.
That was it. And that was all because of my relationship with Springer.
Sure. And Springer, of course, is Springer from SSD Control.
Right, yeah.
Oh,
still to this day, one of my closest friends.
Sure.
But I stopped apologizing for him years ago.
Yeah, you two together are dangerous for sure. But this is Boston, Not LA. That had to give you guys some major press. That record is still to this day an iconic record. Anybody in the hardcore scene certainly is well aware of it. Jerry's Kids, Gangrene, FU's, Decadence. God, I want to think of the Freeze. I mean, so many iconic bands from that era. That must have really helped kind of catapult Gangrene, I would think, to the next steps of the next level.
Yeah, Sean, I mean, I was in high school. I would come home from school, and my mailbox would be, my mother's house would be full with fan mail from all over the world.
Amazing.
South America, Europe, Japan, you name it.
That's great.
Incredible. This is all, obviously for anybody listening, this is all way before cell phones and the internet. None of that stuff existed back then. It was just really, either fanzines or word of mouth. People in different cities had a little scene going on, and then bands would hear about that, their friends would hear about it. They'd say, hey, we want to come play your Boston scene, or we want to come play your scene out in Des Moines or Philadelphia, anywhere where there's a scene going on. Because for the most part, a lot of these shows were quote unquote like DIY, do it yourself underground shows, where most venues, like typical clubs, quote unquote, wouldn't even know what this whole thing was. And then until the bands really started becoming quite large themselves, having quite a name for themselves, that they could actually draw. And then you get Minor Threat playing the channel, courtesy of Nancy Brill, put that show together. And that was kind of the one that really kind of opened the doors to a lot of the other Boston areas, especially bands coming in there and getting all kinds of building up all kinds of crowds of their own in front of a home base. It really, really grasped the whole hardcore punk rock thing big time.
In 86, you had Capital Punishment on the 5/7/26, 86. Capital Punishment, Blue Raven, the 2 Million BC, Glass, Sweet Revenge, the Zulus, and you, with Mark Parento as MC and DJ Shred. And I thought that was a big one. All those acts on there in one day. And then 8/4.
It was a big one for us, but it was a headache for you having to change the stage over.
well, the thing was that what we tried to do is line you up like a store. So who was on last, headline, whatever you wanted to call it, would be up there. Then everybody would be in front of it, so you could peel them off. It was just a matter of trying to sort out the drums, especially when certain drummers came through with cages. And, oh, my God, trying to even though the cage was easy when you got it up there, but getting it up there full of drums during the set change that you'd only got a few minutes. Yeah, it was when you got bands on that 5 or 6 bands and you're trying to cover it, well, some would go over, of course, because of their normal routine. But it was fun. Because there was so many different people in there enjoying the other band. enjoying that's why they put on all these bands at once and stuff and whatever. You know, I mean, you opened for Danzig when later on in '89. You headlined an 18 plus with the Goo Goo Dolls, Psycho, and DJ Ed McMahon there. I can't spell his name. And then Social Distortion. You were in. You did a thing at 4 o'clock on the 13th in '90. You know, all these shows.
That was one stop on the Social Distortion tour. I think we were out with them for like 54 to 56 dates in the U.S.
We did?
Yeah.
56
dates?
Yes,
you guys had the good fortune of getting on some good tours. You mentioned the Circle Jerks anytime, Social Distortion that particular time in 1990. Let's step back a little bit further, Chris. So we talked about 82. This is Boston Out of LA comes out. 83, you're playing Jerry's Kids as well. At some point, you've been playing in Stranglehold for a bit. And the Cheapskates, right? That was with Dickie from the Boss Tones, right?
Yeah, I think it was in 4 bands at the same time.
Wow.
Gangrene, Jerry's Kids, Stranglehold, and the Cheapskates.
I like
Those are not just any run-of-the-mill bands. That's quite a resume in itself, just those 4 bands. That's crazy, all in the same year. That's nuts. So that's like 83-ish, right? So 84 was when really, I think the most, the lineup I would say that had probably the most success for the most part. With you, Walter Gustafson, of course, on drums, and then the Stillford brothers, right? Chuck on guitar and Glenn on bass. That's 1984 timeline. And that's when that band became, like, I guess, the first version of Gangrene to really, like, hit the road and get out there in front of the public. Is that correct?
Yeah. In 84, we started going on tour, and then we won the Rock and Roll Rumble in 86.
Yep.
We wanted to play in 85, but they didn't let us. And then when they invited us in 86, we were supposed to be in the middle of a California tour.
Oh.
So we stuck it out at home to do the Rumble.
There was 2 days in 86, like 8/14, 86, 8/17, 86. You were headlining both, and there was only you on. It was all ages shows at 3 p.m. And you guys were just lighting up the place. And then
that actually makes sense, right? Because I think the Rumble used to be like in April, I'm pretty sure. April or May. And then these shows that Dinky's talking about were in August of 86. The 16th and 17th. You did 2 shows. One was an all-ages show. The other one must have been 18 plus, I'm guessing. And, yeah, to be able to headline the channel twice at that point. So this was obviously you had just won the Rumble, and you're on the road. There's quite a buzz going with the band at this point. You had the single Alcohol was getting airplay wherever they can play it without getting in trouble. And then, of course, you made some videos with Alcohol and Skate to Hell. And this is all even like then the record of Another Wasted Night comes out later on, 86, right? So that was really, you guys must have been going just crazy, going all over the place, balls to the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was nonstop fun.
And 86, you did The Drive all night, Resistance, the Miamis, X-Help, and you guys. And 11/15, 86, you're headlining again. That was the year to me that really, well, I mean, you'd done that in 87 too, but in 86, it really broke out everything, like Sean's saying. And you guys had people lining up at the door early when you were playing at that time period. Because, you'd done lunchtime shows prior to that for BCN. You'd done, and then 87, you were doing the record release on 10/24/87. And you had the Bags, Buzz and the Gang, Uncle Meat, and the Dinos. But you were headlining that record release party. It was great. That's the one I remember mostly because it was
our record release party. We should have been headlining.
Yeah, you were.
You were headlining that show?
Yeah, they did. Record release on 10/24/87.
It must have been for Another Wasted Night, Chris, I'm guessing?
You got it.
You got it. Okay. Gotcha.
And then 7/26, you're opening with Iron Sausage and members of Gangrene for the Butthole Surfers. Oh my God, what a lineup, you guys! And then before,
so Chris, give us a quick little. It's kind of funny. What's a quick little story about Iron Sausage? And that was their first show, I believe, opening for the Butthole Surfers at the Channel.
Yeah, it was. that I mean, we might have been too dumb to realize how dumb we were, but
Aldo on bass, I believe.
we were the Boston answer to Spinal Tap.
I like that, Chris. That's a great way of putting it. Boston, that's Spinal Tap.
Who played Iron Sausage, Chris? Name it. Aldo, you, and who else?
Walter and Barry Height.
Okay.
Barry Height was in that too? Oh, my God.
He was a singer.
He was a singer, Dinky. Is that crazy?
Oh, no! He's a sound guy. You know, he's Barry's cool.
Yep.
Barry's cool.
What did you say, Chris? You guys, was it a total of 3, 4, 5 shows ever with Iron Sausage?
Probably 6 to 8.
Wow.
Every show was either the final show or a reunion show. And we played once at Sausage UK with umlauts over the U.
Oh, God.
I love it. That's
this time that Dinky's talking about 86, 87 was really when you guys were top of the heap, so to speak, in the scene. And that, headline the channel 3 times. You guys played the Dictators.
Yep.
Early in 87, January 2nd. A BCN lunch free afternoon show, which is bananas. In March, those early 11:30 show, 12 o'clock, 11:30 doors, 12 o'clock showtime on BCN.
Oh, that's
free
right.
hot dog and a Miller beer, just insanity. And then a few months later, you come back. You guys are Murphy's Law playing together with Jerry's Kids in the bill as well. And then again, 2 weeks after that was the Buttle Surfers gig with Iron Sausage. 3 months later was your record release party. We just talked about, and then. You took almost a year off before you came back to the channel, but you guys were on the road like dogs back then. You were playing all over the country, correct?
Yeah, 87 we started going to Europe too.
Okay. Makes sense. I don't have you playing the channel again until August of 88, which is with you guys in the Goo Goo Dolls. And it's funny, people who hear Goo Goo Dolls today might not believe it, but back then, Goo Goo Dolls were very similar to Gangrene, a real good punk band, just real good fun band to play, to see out live, and not what you see on here on the radio these days, for sure. God bless them. They're doing amazing business these days, but they were a completely different band back then and a lot of fun, as you guys remember that. It was Gangrene, Goo Goo Dolls, and Psycho. Yeah. Other bands around for a long, long time.
They toured the U.S. opening for us.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow.
There you go.
And then...
I think that was like booking agent politics.
Okay.
And then 89 had Danzig headline in 18 plus, and you guys and Zug Zug and Psycho with Metal Mike doing the DJing. That was another interesting show. That one. Same with the next one after that, Social Distortion in 90. Oh my goodness, you guys did some really, really good shows here. Not just opening, but headlining too. The Dictators, Nervous Eaters, and you guys. I mean, yes, Gangrene came. It was fun in the channel. As Gangrene walked through that back door, we all enjoyed it. Every one of us that worked. I mean, if Tony was here, we'd be talking about you instantly about all this. But Sean's been with us for so long with us now, and he's got all the fine details down. He's even got stuff like that.
This is my scene for sure. I mean, I love these kind of.
It's your scene, yeah. My scene was 20 years before. 60s, late 60s and early 70s. Mostly all the 70s because we never stopped every day for a whole 10 years.
The Another Wasted Night album came out with that lineup with Walter and the Stupid Brothers.
Oh,
okay,
wow.
Gotcha.
I
wonder if that's the one that there's a famous video on YouTube. I mean, there's more than one, but there's one on there where Dinky is actually on stage at the channel giving you guys an introduction. I think you had to just come back off the road, or maybe you had just won the Rumble or something big. Maybe the record just came out because the place was bananas packed, and it was just as soon as Dinky did the introduction and mentioned you guys, the place erupted. And of course, you played alcohol to open the set off, which just set the roof on fire. That was just insanity. That was the
unbelievable show. That was wonderful. I really enjoyed that. Exciting to see people enjoying themselves.
And thank you for the kind words that night, Dinky.
Which one?
He said, thanks for the kind words.
Yeah. I mean, it was, you're welcome. I mean, when you started doing all this, when I first saw you come in and stuff, I was saying, whoa, these guys are too trash. Then I said to myself, no, they're just right on. This is going to be interesting. And then when I hit the first chord and everybody in the place just jumped back, I said, yes, this is wonderful. This is going to be great. And I realized you'd played so many times to many, many different kinds of people, and you just let it out. And once you let it out, then people just, oh man, they just went nuts. I think it was like one of the first times I ever saw stage diving was after you guys. I said to myself, Sean, go and get them guys. I'd stand in the mixer and I'd point, I said, get the idiots, not the good people.
Dick had to worry about his expensive sound system and monitor system, people jumping and diving off everything. So, yeah, I can totally appreciate your concern on that, Dick. It was pretty wild back then, for sure.
It was, real open. So Tony put up these signs, no stage diving. I mean, they were down in the first show, I mean, people were trying to stage diving and pull down the sign. I thought, yeah, this is cool. This guy's having a great old time. Especially when we've heard some of them. People
started to realize this is basically part of the deal, right? These kind of bands. I mean, I remember back then, Jerry's Kids and Gang Green were probably two of the fastest bands anywhere. It's how they played, and it's still to listen to those records now. It's just like, man, it's just insane how fast you guys played and pulled it off, and still were able to make songs that made sense. Those records in that time frame was just absolutely insanity. So good.
Yes, Chris, it was great.
And the Alcohol was played, and I know it's been covered over the years. I know Dropkicks have covered it, the Meatmen, and Metallica played it live. It's kind of become a famous song for a lot of reasons for a long time, and was on all the local jukeboxes around Boston forever. One of the most played songs.
Did this come out? Did it come out of MTV Basement as well? Didn't you get played in that one?
Yeah. And then we made a couple more for the You Got It album that got played on the Headbangers Ball.
Yeah, that's it. That was what it was. I knew you guys are going to go somewhere like that.
Yeah, I do want to mention that this is another important part of Gang Green's rise, so to speak, was MTV, because they finally started paying attention to the underground bands in the mid '80s, which kind of timed out perfectly for Gang Green. So. They had these shows on late at night called 120 Minutes, and later on the Headbangers Ball specifically, which were really the shows that broke. I don't want to say broke these bands, but it exposed them to a huge audience that had maybe heard their name but had no idea what they're all about. And then you get to see these bands live not live, but you see their videos on MTV. Cro-Mags, Danzig, Gang Green, all these bands, and it's like, wow, what is this? Yeah. And then, I know you had Paul Rockman is a pretty famous director. He also did the American Hardcore movie, but he directed several of those videos for you, Chris. Right? Alcohol and Have Fun, Another Wasted Night. Right? Those are all played, I think, on the 120 Minutes show.
Yeah, it was Rockman. Not only is a brilliant director, he's just a good, long-time friend.
Yeah.
He used to go on the road with us and film stuff.
Awesome. That's awesome. He must have some insane footage.
But
and then the Roadrunner, you saw with Roadrunner for a few years, '87, and then a couple more videos ended up on Headbangers Wall. On the You Got It, We'll Give It To You, Born to Rock. So, and you stuck with Paul at those points. He did all those videos for you guys, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So give us some road stories. And after I should mention this first of all, the BCN Rumble. I remember the semifinals with the Metro on Lansdowne Street, which is now House of Blues, but the finals back then were held at the Orpheum. And maybe I know my memories. Give us a little bit of stories, a couple of stories from the '86 Rumble, WBCN Rock and Roll Rumble finals at the Orpheum Theater.
That was just a fun night. But the semifinals at Metro, or whatever it became, we were there the night before we were supposed to play it. I was with a bartender from the Rat and a friend of mine, Norman Jabbar. And we were on some sort of crazy hallucinogenic. and the bartender for Rat comes up and he says, "I found all the beer in the whole wide world." I'm like, okay. So we follow him into the beer cooler. We're in there probably on a fourth or fifth beer each. And that got back to BCN. Alec Peters, our manager at the time, had to talk them off the ledge and allow us to play.
Oh man. That's great. That's great. And then so you make to the finals at the Orpheum. Tell us about that night.
It was one of the highlights of my career. We played good. It sounded good.
The audience went crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they appreciated it.
Yeah, I remember walking in. I saw that. I walked in from being. I had another thing that night. I came in for the set, and I mean, the place up front of the stage was just absolute crazy madness. Slam dances, chairs flying. It was incredible. There was just no way they could have not won the Rumble that night. It was insanity. Right in front of everybody to see. It was awesome, amazing. And tell us about another band back then that was pretty popular. Till Tuesday, they had a very big song on the radio, Voices Carry, and you guys kind of had decided to have your own take on that. Give us a little bit of background about how that went down.
Yeah.
Well, when that song was huge and being played every year, we were on tour that summer, and no matter where we went on local radio, we heard it. I think we even heard it in Mexico. So we got back and we were doing some recording. We figured out how to play it. Almost made a parody of the song.
But it got some traction. It got airplay and all that. That's for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, BCN played the shit out of it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I remember that on BCN a lot. It was great.
Did you ever cross paths with Amy Mann after that happened? After you guys covered that? I'm just curious if you ever saw her in person after that.
I did. I said, Amy, I'm sure your attorney will be contacting mine about the publishing. And she said, Chris, don't even worry about it. I made so much money off that song, I could care less.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
And I've heard later in life from a few people that she likes our version better than hers.
I've heard the same thing. I was going to ask you that. I've heard the same thing that she, after she got around and listened to it, she's like, you know what, this is better than our version, which is pretty cool. She came from a little bit more of a punker background than Till Tuesday would make you believe or make you think. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
At the first ever Boston Music Awards, we won Best Heavy Metal Band, or we tied with Extreme for Best Heavy Metal Band.
No way.
Extreme weren't really heavy and we weren't really metal.
Yeah.
Right. But Don did take a picture of Amy Mann and myself holding up our awards.
Oh, wow.
And we used that as a cover.
Oh, that's awesome.
I like that.
Yeah. And then Ken got a cease and desist me to go pull all the records from the stores.
Press is good press, right? Oh, that's funny.
That's
funny.
That's a great one. I like that one. You pioneered a bunch of stuff.
You kept the band going. Pretty much, different incarnation over the other. Take a little break here and there. But you've always had Gangrene's basically always been your baby, always been your fallback, always been your first love, I suppose, when it gets to music. And you were doing that pretty much straight away through until you had a big setback, unfortunately, about 6 years ago now. I mean, almost 8 years ago. It's crazy. So tell us what happened in Halloween 2018.
I was out. And I can't remember to this day where I was, but I was 53 years old at the time, and I actually thought to myself, I felt this pressure on my head, and I was like, I actually thought, I think I'm having a stroke.
Yeah.
So you could feel it coming on, basically.
Yeah, something wasn't right.
And were you alone at the time? Was anybody with you?
I was alone.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's
a toughie one. But you.
So you were right. Unfortunately, it did turn. You had a major stroke, and I know you've been paralyzed in the left side of your body. So I guess kind of, without reliving the scary stuff, but I'm just curious. You must have been just like, I mean, how do you even react to that, right? And this is, you play guitar your whole life, and all of a sudden something strikes you that you had no control over, and then now you can't play, right? So tell us about how you came, you found out you had a stroke, and then the whole rehab and all that stuff. Maybe talk about that for a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I was still working on it, but, people heard something serious happened, and I was in the hospital. And my phone would ring, and yeah, I'm all right. I'd say, yeah, I had a stroke. I can't play guitar anymore. And they'd say, can you still sing? And I'd say, I never really could.
Always has a sense of humor. That isn't left for sure, Chris.
Right, well, because I walk really funny with one side being paralyzed. Sometimes I get self-conscious and I feel the need to explain myself. Like I'll tell someone I had a stroke. I'm not really fucked up.
Yeah.
And they always say, I'm sorry. And I say, look, there's no reason to be sorry. The comeback's going to be better than the setback. I'll be back.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's exactly true. And you're fighting it. Good mentality. That's the way to do it. I've done it through cancers. Now I'm doing it through dialysis. But, you just plod on, and you plod on like you said. Like I said, Tony unfortunately can't move his arm on the right and the left-hand side too, but I'm hoping that he'll come back with the words and with the mind like you. Your mind is really, you can think. You're doing really wonderful things right. I mean, you're remembering a lot of this stuff. I know it was enjoyable and this, that, and the other, but it was also taxing.
I had the stroke. I was in 3 different hospitals for a month each. And the second hospital was supposed to be the best rehab hospital in the state. And so, you know, I had someone come in and they were like, I'm your physical therapist. I'm your physical therapist, you know, self-explanatory. Occupational therapist, which is, you know, they kind of showed you how to get dressed with one arm, put toothpaste on your toothbrush. You know, just minor shit that you take for granted when you have 2 arms.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
Then I had this young, probably just out of college girl come in and said, I'm your cognitive behavioral therapist. I'm like, yeah. She goes, count backwards from 100 by 7s. I'm like, 93, 86, 79, 72, 65. She's like, okay, that's good.
You got it. Oh, my God.
You still have all your brain function.
Definitely.
Obviously, your sense was not changed one bit, obviously. So
whatever's left after all that.
Well, you've done well. I mean, you really have. I mean, there's no ifs and buts, and you're plodding on right now, and you're getting better bit by bit, and it just takes some time with that thing. It's really a time thing. You know, Tony had a massive stroke. They flew him from Chatham to Boston, saved his life there, and then ended up in a rehab and stuff, and he's in assisted living right now, trying to keep everything together. And my friend Kenny Duchesne, who worked with me for a while and stuff, Kenny had a massive one after his house, unfortunately. His garage blew up and his house set on fire. And he was outside, laid outside for days, and for a couple of days or something like that. And he managed, and he's, you know, slow, but very slow again, but coming back a bit better. And so you've got to, if you plod on the way that your mind is doing and sing here and do this, that, and the other and focus on it, it'll flow and things will start realizing, and those little neurotransmitters will work together.
I mean, I've got an exciting year coming up.
I was just going to say, get some exciting stuff coming up. You've been working hard, Chris, to get back in, you know, so to speak, performing shape. Let's give us a little bit back on what you've been up to lately.
Yeah.
What's coming up?
Yeah.
Well, I have new management, this guy named Tom Hazer. And he wrote David Ellison from Megadeth's book. And he's been working since December writing a book on me. He's interviewing everybody from the Boston, LA area, neighborhoods, outlets. You know, he lives in Green Bay, Wisconsin. He drove to Chicago to interview Springer.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a 4-hour drive, and it took him an hour to find a parking spot. Well, if you know Springer, he can't make things easy. But I'm so glad he's in there. He has a lot to say. He is truly a top-tier friend of mine. I love that kid.
That's excellent. Excellent.
You got new management. You got a book coming out.
Yeah.
You got a beautiful daughter, Grace, has something coming on too, coming up pretty soon, right?
Yeah, she hasn't set a date yet, but she is engaged, and I like her fiance a lot.
That's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. In fact, she and I feel good about it. I mean, she loves him so much that, like, he goes to church, and she would go on Wednesday nights and then stay later for a class, and she converted to Catholicism for the wedding.
Oh.
Good for her.
Yeah.
She's got to love it.
She loves you. She's a sweetheart. I mean, I've talked to her quite a few times. Well, a few times over the course after you had your setback with the stroke and all that. She loves her daddy. She's happy you're on the path back for sure, buddy. I know that.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. That's really
It'll be exciting.
Very good.
Walking down the aisle whenever that time does come, you know.
So you've got some exciting stuff that's coming out this year. Are you going to go and sing again for people?
Yeah, and you'll get the 40th anniversary reissue release of Another Wasted Night, which is going to be a box set with all kinds of stuff.
Oh, great! That's fantastic.
This is breaking news, basically. So basically, if anybody's been wondering what what Chris Doherty and Gangrene have been up to for the past, several months. He did last time. I think it was the last time you performed, Chris. Right? We had a benefit. Chris, one of Chris's best friends ever, passed away unfortunately last year too, which was another kind of shock to the system for a lot of people from the Boston area. So we ended up having a benefit for him to raise some money for his family, and then that was the last time I think Chris, you performed with Gangrene that day. It was the last time you played on stage, I think, right?
Yeah, that was definitely it.
Okay. Tell us about him for a minute, your buddy.
He was my best friend and manager for a while, and he sang Alcohol live every night.
Yeah.
Because I just got sick of singing it. Playing some, and maybe they haven't seen Gangrene before, but they know the song Alcohol from either listening to it or if someone else played it in their car for them. And so, go through a set with mediocre, lukewarm response, and then hit that song, and the stage was just covered with people. Talking over microphones, and like, in the middle of the night, one time driving through the Midwest, I said, Dean, can you start singing Alcohol? I'm sick of doing it. So we played, we went on tour with this band called Municipal Waste.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And we played at the Stone Church up in Burlington, Vermont. And after the show, some kid comes up to Dean and goes, hey, you did a great job on that Dropkick Murphys cover. I was like,
That's awesome. That is great. Well, when kids are hearing your song that other band performed, that's pretty damn cool. And we're talking about Dean Jackson, by the way. People I just assume people knew who he is, but Dean Jackson was Chris's longtime best friend and manager for the band, and again, he passed away, shockingly after they did a tour of Europe, and then they came back from that, and that was like Chris just mentioned. Dean would jump up on stage and sing Alcohol every night, and the crowd went, batshit crazy, and Chris joined in as well, and then so they all came back from Europe, and then not too long after, Dean passed. He passed away, and that was another shock to the system. So that was last March, I think, when you guys last played. That was March of 2024, right? That was 2 years ago. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So 40th anniversary of Another Waste Tonight is coming up. I know you've been working on your vocals and all that, but I don't know how much details you can give away just yet, but maybe give a little bit of any teasers on who might be playing in the band and shows or whatever else you got coming up.
I get these guys from Connecticut that play in a band called Dead by Wednesday. and two of them played with Harley and the Cro-Mags.
Oh yeah, sure. I know.
And I'm just kind of realizing by talking to all these musicians from Connecticut that play with the Cro-Mags that Harley has to go to Connecticut to find his talent because nobody in fucking New York will play with him anymore.
That's great.
That one.
Or he gets a guy from another Boston guy like Dom to play guitar for him. That's awesome. That's awesome. So you got some players coming in. They're going to be learning, or they're already working on Another Wasted Night record. There's a box set coming out.
Yeah.
Any kind of can you give us any dates or time frame on this, Chris? Here, it's still kind of. I know you're working with Tom on this stuff, but is there anything else that sort of that can be announced yet, or is it all kind of to be determined soon, or announcing coming soon?
Coming soon.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it'll be worth the wait. I guarantee it.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's gonna be a box set. That's fantastic. Wow, that's great. 40 years. Crazy to believe that. To think that.
It's crazy to think what was I doing 40 years ago?
Yeah, right. So tell us about that's kind of, I'm excited. There's a future coming for you and for Gangrene, of course, which is awesome. Maybe tell us about some of the times you went to the channel. I mean, you're on the road so often, but whenever you were in town, you mentioned some of the Boston bands you saw before. The Hoods, La Pesta. Are there other bands that came through like from a national level that played the channel that you would have remember going to see? Any fun memories from that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, there was one summer like they just had every week they had someone like Stiff Little Fingers, the Undertones.
Yeah.
And Dinky, block your ears.
Yeah.
What we used to do is me, Springer, and there's usually like 4 or 5 of us, right? We'd show up when the band was loading in and just kind of mix it in with all that going on, and then walk all the way back to the men's room. We'd move a ceiling tile, then sit up on top on a 2x6 for like fucking 3, 4, 5 hours. We'd sit up there, you could barely move, and if you had to pee, it was like, We'd wait until the DJ started playing the music, then we knew the doors were open and we dropped down.
Yeah, that was a common ploy from people like you back then. You and Springer. Springer had all kinds of great ideas for that kind of stuff.
Kenny Duchesne fell through the roof in there and landed in the toilet with the girls. Well, no, it was a metal band singer that did that. They'd just come from the garden and they were upstairs doing the same as you, hanging out and doing the thing upstairs. And the next thing, the guy's falling down, and the girls are going, "Oh, look, I got it." The girls are trying to get him, you know. That's right. Yeah, the channel had so many places of corrupt things going on, but at the same time, it was just fun. And nobody was getting hurt. Nobody was doing,
the shit you heard up there.
Yeah.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't do much up there. I never went up there that much because I was always worried I was going to go through. I was too fat. I was going to go through the ceiling like before, you know. And
Dickie, you remember Mark?
Did you what?
Mark Giaquinta.
Mark, oh yeah, I've not seen or talked with him for such a long time.
He had some sort of management title there.
He did?
What that?
Mark Giaquinta?
Yeah.
I don't remember the name, but I could be wrong.
No, I don't. I remember the name. I remember. No, I don't know him real well. No.
Well, we were somewhere in like Texas, maybe Houston or Austin, and he showed up. I just want to see if it was the same band. Like, hey man, how's it going?
Wow, that's great. That the people all over America that used to be in the channel come there. You know, it's amazing now. Like all the employees that I had for the sound and whatever, like Scott Perlman and Paul Hager and police and people like that. They're at the top of the line now in Nashville doing their thing. Paul's out with Miley Cyrus, and right now I believe, and I'm not sure what Scott's doing. He's been taking care of mum problems. That mum passed away and stuff, and he had all the house to take care of up here in Boston area, and what have you. But at least he came up to see his cousins and everybody, and it was a really good time for him on some levels, and bad on other levels, but. We all have to go through all that, as we all know. And we just keep plodding on. And I'm so happy that you've got going something this year after 40 odd years. I love it. I love that stuff. And you bring it back. I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing. You get some of your players back.
I'm just singing in front of the band, but it's all my songs.
Yeah, oh, excellent. That's even better. That's all what you've written over the years and everything.
So any quick tidbits you can share with us as far as any surprises coming in the book that might be catch us off guard, or there's something you can release today? You want to wait until it comes out?
I'll wait till it comes out. If I start talking about it now, I'm going to sell less copies.
Yeah.
You've been trying to. I know Chris, you've been trying to working hard to get back in shape where you can actually, get the vocals working. You're trying to straighten the straight and narrow. Give us a little bit of an update, like your current day to day, what you've been up to.
Well, part of the book is kind of about my journey through punk rock and the Boston music scene, and my journey through being in and out of sobriety. Right now, I'm sober. But
awesome.
Great stuff. And it was a time.
It's a challenge, as you know, being in this business, in this industry, especially when you front the band Gangrene.
Yeah.
People have, of course, they're going to have assumptions on you're that crazy wild guy. Not that you weren't. You worked for an awful long time, but I think it's, we're not getting any younger, right? So it's good to try and prioritize things and try and keep things on the straight and narrow so you can continue to be with us for as long as you can and get that music back out there and have people come and see the band play those, hear those songs again live, and that's all exciting stuff for sure. That's
definitely exciting. And on that, Sean, I think we have to say thank you very much to Chris, and thank you for putting up with us, Chris. And I know you put up with Sean every day you can.
Very much, Dinky. as I said, it's great just to hear your voice again. Know you're still with us.
Well, thank you, and same here. It's great to hear your voice. I always think of you, and I'm glad that Sean says, "I've got Chris talking." I says, "Yes, this is good. This is good. Chris is great." I says, he's really followed through, and you're coming back. Sean will look after you on the roads and stuff and get things together. That's his gig. He knows how to do that real well, and do some shows with him and stuff and what have you. All right, with that, we have to sort of close it out for time-wise and what have you. But I want to thank you again we call it 2 pints in a corner, Tony, now. So we sat there with a glass of beer chatting old fogey style. And yet we're chatting on an interview, but not, it's just a talk. It's just old people talking. Old people. I'm classed as old. You guys are still young punks. You still got the meat. So if you talk to Aldo, have him give us a call or something, and talk to Sean, and we have to get Aldo on at this thing, because he was the character that was one of the best club characters. I could call him up in the middle of the night and get a keyboard because the reggae act wanted 5 keyboards instead of 2. So I'd call up and get. The guy didn't want to program his keyboards. All he wanted to do is just play each song. But he had 5 songs he had to play, and he needed 5 keyboards because they all had different tones on them, but they were the same keyboard. And Aldo was the only one that could run around and grab them from Wurlitz's and places like that if he hadn't got them from anybody.
He delivered.
Yeah.
And he delivered.
And he delivered. And he come.
Aldo was a good source for equipment and anything else you might need any time of night. So that's funny. I'll have to get him on the phone for one of these interviews for sure. That'd be great.
He's got to, I mean, if he's still doing the gangrene stuff, I mean, and what have you with you, Aldo's a character and a half, and I've always enjoyed being around him because he's just such a character. And he brings in that energy.
We usually talk every day.
Well, I tell you, the iron sausage business I thought was pretty cool. I said, it's coming on there now, he's playing. I said, oh my God, he just rented this stuff. And I said, Aldo, you're having fun? He says, it's good stuff. Love playing with you, Chris. He's just having great stuff and whatever. Oh, I'm glad you keep in touch with him. He's such a lad. And I thought he'd gone down south and retired and whatever. But his friends and his contacts are all up here, and I'm glad that. So here, would you like to say goodbye, Sean, and this, that, and the other right now?
Yeah, I'll just say to Chris, we're in touch quite a bit. So keep on keeping on, buddy. Looking forward to what's coming next for you. Exciting news of the book and 40th anniversary of Another Wasted Night coming up, and potentially some more gangrene shows that. Hear those songs again live, so I'm sure we'll be in touch with it. But thank you for making the time for the interview today. Yeah. It was great to go back and reminisce a little bit, and nothing but love for you.
It was definitely.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Sean. This is 2 pints in a corner, closing out.
Yeah, Chris Doherty from Gangrene closing out 2 pints in the corner. They're empty now.
I like that one. You got that? Yeah, I'm talking to my Chris over here, who's in the booth doing the recording, and he liked that last one comment. He loved that last comment. Well, Chris, you still got the mind, kiddo, so just keep working with it. I love it. And the tones will come.
Yeah, no plans on stopping.
Thank you again, Chris. This is wonderful. All right, you guys, have a great one, and good luck with all the stuff. You deserve it, kiddo.